Hi, so the thesis of this video is going to be that the true crime genre for ESFJs and ISFJs is the equivalent of conspiracy theories for ENTPs and INTPs. And I'm going to kind of talk about why, because these four types, even though they're very distinct from each other, in terms of the sensing types versus the intuitive types I'm talking about, I think that they're both attracted to these genres in general for specific reasons that are related to the cognitive functions that they use. And this may or may not be inspired by things that are happening in real time in the United States right now, with solving mysteries in real time. But I think that for ESFJs and ISFJs, kind of being interested in crime in general, in particular, I feel like a lot of them really like Law and Order SVU. And I think a good example of this, weirdly enough, is Taylor Swift, because one of her cats is named after Olivia Benson, who's the main character on that show, which I understand. I really like that character too, but that's a side issue. But I think that the SFJ types are really drawn to just kind of that genre in general because it's about people, rather than, let's talk about like the mafia, for example. I don't think that those types are necessarily interested in learning about true crime like that, but they're interested in character studies, which is what essentially the true crime genre and Law and Order SVU is. And I think that for their extroverted intuition, which is lower in their stack than the NTP types, but it still kind of activates that because, you're thinking about all the different possibilities and the suspects and the motives that various people have, and what could have happened, what could really be going on here. But it also, relates to their SI, which is higher up in their function stack for the SFJ types, because true crime by nature is very, very based in reality rather than abstract concepts that the NTP types are interested in, with conspiracy theories and stuff, even if those are based in reality too. For example, if they're looking into the government experimenting on their own citizens, that's very much based in reality, and you have MKUltra and this Tuskegee experiment, which are really, really good examples of that. But the SFJ types, I don't think, are necessarily interested in that too much, because you can't talk about, specific people individually, which is what's going on with true crime, is you have a person that you're focusing on. And there's, only so many possibilities here. We're not talking about outlandish conspiracy theories. It's very focused. And also, it obviously plays to their extroverted feeling, which is also very high in their stack for the SFJ types, because I think that they're really interested in the human interest aspect of it, because they have a name and a face that they can relate to, rather than, this is, a conspiracy that's happening in real time, or if this is like a widespread epidemic, or like the opioid epidemic. We can talk about statistics all day long for that, but they really want a specific person and their story to relate to, because I think that that's extroverted feeling and introverted sensing. Because, in this specific situation that inspired me to make this video, we're really focused on this missing girl, and we really care about her. We want to know what happened to her, which obviously everybody does, but I think the SFJ types are really, really drawn to things like this because they really want to solve the mystery and piece it all together. And I think that just in general, the media is very, very oriented towards the SFJ types, and a good example of this, if you're in the United States, is if you watch the Olympic coverage. They just spend a lot of time talking about an athlete's backstory and all their trials and tribulations, and telling you about all the hardships they've had to overcome, rather than just showing us more events. You'd have to go and find a live stream to watch all the events, which I think is targeting the SFJs, which is, they're a big part of the population, so it makes sense. But also the true crime genre, I think it kind of plays to their introverted thinking, which isn't very high in the SFJ stack, because they want to solve the mystery of what's happening here, and everybody wants to kind of piece it all together. But like I said, you kind of have the rules are kind of set. There's not this super grand thing happening. It's usually this interpersonal drama that's playing out between a couple, for example, or within a family or a relatively small group. It's not this massive thing. And there's only so many possibilities here, and the only real curveballs that they have to deal with are human nature, which they're also really good at, I think sensing people's motives with the extroverted feeling. They can be very sensitive to that. And I think that just kind of, the SFJs and the NTPs, they're part of the same quadrant. They use all the same top 4 cognitive functions. And I think that you have true crime for the SFJs and you have conspiracy theory land for the NTPs. And I think that they're both drawn to mysteries that they want to solve, but it's just kind of the scale of them are a little bit different. And I think that the fact that right now on various social media platforms you have mostly other women trying to figure out what's happened to this missing girl, and they're working together to try to solve it, and they keep finding really, really small details and then expanding on that. And I mean, that's kind of a good example of like teamwork, which is extroverted feeling, when they're working together to solve it. And I think that just kind of the true crime genre in general, from which I've never really been particularly interested in, because I feel like my real life is just, there's enough bad vibes. I don't need all of that. But I've seen quite a few people who are really into that genre. They'll make statements like, if it's a situation where a husband has done something bad to his wife, they'll say something like, well, this is why I don't trust men at all, which isn't a logical conclusion based on this one incident of a husband doing something bad to his wife. That's one incident. You shouldn't extrapolate and say that you don't trust all men. And I feel like they're at least somewhat serious when they say stuff like this. And so you have kind of these illogical generalizations that they'll make. And then that's coming from the SFJs, and then you have the NTPs as well, and they'll kind of make broad generalizations when they're dealing with conspiracy theories too, about, oh, I don't trust doctors. That's, a good one. Or I don't trust anybody in the government, which is a lot more logical than I don't trust all men, because that's an immutable characteristic of somebody versus being a government official or being in big pharma, for example. That's a lot more logical of a conclusion, but they still make these broad generalizations. So you have kind of the same behavior patterns in both groups, but obviously very different theaters that they're dealing with. So anyway, that's kind of a really, really rambling video and kind of not necessarily the most helpful or useful thing, but yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope that you are having a good day, and I will see you later. Bye.